Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We begin with Allah's blessed name. We praise Him and we glorify Him as He ought to be praised and glorified. And we pray for peace and for blessings on all His noble messengers, and in particular on the last of them all, the blessed Prophet Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. As we greet you from my sitting room here at my home in my native Caribbean island of Trinidad. I'm in my rocking chair, so maybe we can call these the rocking chair talks or the rocking chair conversations. Yeah. It is a very sad subject that I have to bring up again today, but I have a number of sisters who are constantly writing to me and urging me again and again to bring up the subject and lecture on the subject. So here goes. Our Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi sallam made many prophecies. He prophesied many things about Akhirul Zaman. And many of the prophecies pertaining to Akhirul Zaman are connected with Dajjal, the false Messiah or the Antichrist. And you are aware, of course, that I have just completed my first book on the subject of Dajjal. And I thank Allah that this has been finished. And I thank all those who have sponsored me during the process of writing, and those who are assisting now with the cost of printing the book. We do not as yet have enough funds to do the printing, but there are some people who have made promises. We hope that we'll get the money, inshallah, for the printing. But the book should go to the printry soon, inshallah, probably in another few days. And this is the first of 5 books that I hope to be able to write on the subject of Dajjal, the false Messiah or the Antichrist. You know what are the subjects of the other books. One of the other books is on Dajjal and women. And the Prophet said, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, he said, the last people to come out to Dajjal will be women. The last people to come out to Dajjal will be women. And a man would have to return to his home and tie down, means to coercively restrain his wife and sister and daughter to protect them from Dajjal. In other words, a massive program of brainwashing of women. One of the things he said about that age is that women would be dressed and be yet naked. And hence, you can just imagine, Allah has made women beautiful, Allah has made women attractive, and men are attracted to women. Men are the hunters and women are the hunted. And the reason why Allah has put the men to be at the front of the masjid, to pray at the front and the women at the back, is because if He had put the women at the front and the men at the back, no man would be able to perform his salat and concentrate on his salat, because women will be in front of him. And the men are attracted to women. All men are attracted to women. And so when a woman takes off her clothes, she's dressed and yet naked, and when she displays all the assets that Allah has given to her, you can just imagine that this will be a sexual revolution. And we're living in that time now. We're living in that time. A sexual revolution will affect all the men. Of course, all the men are going to be affected by a sexual revolution. All the men will find it difficult to manage in life with women freely available, sexually available so freely. Sex is as available as the sunshine. Can you imagine what is the predicament of the young man, whose hormones are all raging? The old man is easy for him, but the young man, and maybe he's not as yet married, and all these women are on display before him. Can you imagine what is his predicament? I grew up as a child in an age when you could not find a woman dressed in trousers. If you saw a woman in blue jeans, you would say the sky is falling. That's the age in which we grew up as children. And today, look at what you go into a shopping mall and guess what you see? Yes, the women are there and they're displaying all the assets that Allah gave them on display. And the young people go to the shopping malls. That's where they're attracted, like bees are attracted to flowers. And you can imagine that we are in the middle of a sexual revolution now. How do we protect ourselves? He said that women will be dressed like men, meaning that women will seek to assume the functional role of men in society. But he also said that men would dress like women. And that could mean not just physically dressing like women, but it could also mean abandoning the functional role of men in society. Men dressed as women could mean, in addition to the literal meaning, meaning a man dresses like a woman to attract another man, but it can also symbolize men abandoning their functional role in society as men. And amongst the functions of a man in society is to maintain women and children. A woman is helpless when she is pregnant. She needs to be protected. She needs to be maintained during childbirth. And after the baby is born, she has to devote attention to the baby. And therefore, she needs someone to maintain her. And therefore, Allah has placed upon men a duty to maintain women. الرجال بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم الرجال قوامون على النساء. Men must maintain women. Men must guard and protect women. Which brings us to our subject. Amongst the signs of the last day, said the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, is that one man would have to maintain 50 women. Did you hear that? Have you thought about it? I've thought about it for a long, long time. And I regret to say that for most of the time that I've been thinking about this hadith, I concentrated only upon the decline in the birth of baby boys. And I felt that because of the radiation coming from cell phones and the internet and these things, laptop computers and so on, from the cell phone towers, cellular towers, I felt that this was having a damaging effect on the production of sperm, and that the male chromosomes were decreasing. And by default, baby girls will be born in abundance and very few baby boys being born. There is evidence to support that this is taking place, but this is not the full story. I have now come to realize, particularly since I'm becoming more and more familiar now with French society, I've now come to realize that one man maintaining 50 women is also to be understood of men abandoning their functions as men, of maintaining and supporting women and children. A man now delays marriage, yes, or sometimes he doesn't see any need to get married. No. So he enjoys women casually without having the responsibility on his shoulder to maintain them. And this leads to one man having to maintain 50 women. So our women are suffering. It's not just a feminist revolution in which women are getting the upper hand over men, for example, in the law of divorce, for example. But in addition to that, because of the decline in marriages, less and less men getting married, and less men being prepared to take a second wife. Society now makes it extremely difficult for a man to take a second wife. And because of the prevalence of divorce, more and more divorce is taking place. We have our sisters, or rather I should say our daughters, because I'm 75 years of age, who are suffering. And they need to get husbands, and the men are not marrying them. No. Most men are too scared, too afraid of what society would say, what family members would say if I were to take a second wife. And so most men are stuck, yes, in a prison of society, stuck with one wife, or are afraid to get married at all. Well, then what do we do? My students, what do we do? We are the ones who are now leading the way in the most advanced thinking at this time on Akhirul Zaman. We who are students of eschatology, we are leading the way today, alhamdulillah. And on this issue, therefore, we need to direct our attention, and we need to have more advanced thinking than the rest of society. And so today's talk is meant for my students and for those who listen to me and who have some respect or consideration for my views. Of course, they know the rules that when I give an opinion, I say that no one must accept my opinion unless you're convinced that it is correct. This is my respect for your intellect, for your rational faculty, but also because I can make a mistake, as I have made mistakes in the past. And if I make a mistake and you simply absorb what I teach uncritically, then who will correct me? So I love to see a student who will not accept what I say unless he is convinced that it is correct. And so this is now my view pertaining to the subject of our women who need husbands and who cannot find husbands. At the age of 72, 3 years ago, at the age of 72, I took a second wife. Yes. My first wife and I, we are now 25 years married, and alhamdulillah, it's been a very happy marriage for 25 years. But 3 years ago, I took a second wife. My first wife, of course, is from Trinidad, but my second wife is Algerian, who lives in France. And we've been married 3 years now. And one of the reasons why I took a second wife was to set the example. To set the example for my students that you should also, if you have the means to be able to maintain another wife, then do please marry. You simply have to inform your wife, inform your family. It's not an obligation, it's a matter of courtesy. Inform them that I'm planning to take another wife. You do not have to seek permission from anyone. Not from the government, not from the imam, not from the society, not from your neighbors, not from your father and mother, not from your wife, not from your family, and not from your children. No. Allah has created you as a man, and Allah has given to you certain rights, and this is one of the rights that you have as a man. So if you have the means to be able to maintain another wife, then you have a duty. I'm saying to you, you have a duty to marry, because unless you marry her, what is going to happen to her? If because she does not have a husband, she is brutalized. She does not have a husband, she is victimized. She does not have a husband, she lives in total fear. She does not have a husband, she is exploited. If she does not have a husband, she succumbs to sin. And you refuse to marry her. No, and you have the means to do so. What will be your fate on Judgment Day? That's right. Allah has created men and given to men a responsibility to maintain and to guard and protect women. Where does he say so? He says so. In Surah An-Nisa, he says, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض وبما أنفقوا من أموالهم. That men have a responsibility to guard and protect women. Men have a responsibility to maintain women. And if you do not marry her, then what will be her fate? So I'm speaking today from my sitting room, making an appeal to you. If you have the means to take another wife, then do not allow society to stand in the way. Do not allow your relatives and your father and mother and your family members to stand in the way. Do not allow your children to stand in the way. Do not allow your wife to stand in the way. Do not allow the government to stand in the way and the laws of the state to stand in the way. Allah's law is the highest law. And if you are acting in a manner which is pleasing to Allah and others are displeased, you don't care 2 peanuts about them. If you are acting in a manner which is pleasing to Allah and anyone is displeased, you don't care 2 peanuts about them. You go ahead and act in a manner which is pleasing to Allah. Otherwise, there's going to be great fasad on earth. So my appeal to you is go ahead and take another wife if you have the means to do so. I have several women who are writing to me and who need husbands. And of course, you cannot force yourself upon a woman. If you are prepared to marry and she does not like your profile, she has the right to say no. Yes, she has that freedom. So what I'll do is I will ask my assistant, I have an assistant, a sister, a very good Muslim sister who is my assistant, who helps me with my emails. So whenever if you are interested in taking another wife and you will want to be introduced to one of the sisters who are in touch with me and who would like to get married, I'm not going to run any marriage bureau, I don't have the time for that. But if you write to me, then I'll put you on to my assistant, and then she will then put the two of you together to make contact with each other and see whether it's possible for marriage to take place. But Allah speaks in the Quran on the subject after the battle of Badr, in which several of our men were killed and many children were now orphans and many women are widows. And then the Battle of Uhud, which took place 2 years later, about 2 years later. And then a number of our men were killed and many more children are now orphans. And you have orphan girls, you have orphan boys, and you have widows. And all three have to be maintained by the society. And of course, the way in which we maintain them is through the institution of zakat. But what do you do when the budget that you have in zakat is not enough to maintain all these widows and orphan boys and orphan girls? This is a problem. It takes place after wars, particularly after wars. After the First and Second World Wars, Germany in particular suffered badly, with a huge number of young men killed. A huge number of women are now widows and many, many children are orphans. And Germany had no way of solving the problem, so there was rampant prostitution. That's modern Western civilization. They don't have a clue how to deal with the problem. Modern Western civilization. But we in Islam, what's our solution? Allah takes up the subject in Surah Ali Imran. Is it Ali Imran or is it Surah An-Nisa? Yes. I think perhaps Surah An-Nisa. He says, "Ba'aduzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Wa in khiftum alla tuqsitu fil yatama." Now then, Allah is dealing with a problem in which you have a large number of orphans and widows, and they have to be maintained. And He chooses the one which is most vulnerable of the three. The orphan girl is the most vulnerable, more vulnerable than the orphan boy and more vulnerable than the widow. So He directs attention to the most vulnerable of all, the orphan girl. And He seeks to provide a solution for this problem. وَإِن خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تُقْسِطُوا قِسْطًا أَلَّا تُقْسِطُوا فِي الْيَتَامَى. If you fear that you do not have the means to be able to solve this problem, to act justly towards the orphan girls. Why? Because the budget in the zakat fund is not enough. Then He said, this is the way to solve the problem. Remember what is the problem. The problem is not slavery. The problem is orphans. And in the orphans, the problem is the orphan girl more than the orphan boy. And He says, if you fear that you do not have the means to be fair, you cannot act justly to fulfill your collective obligations towards the orphan girls in the society. فَانْكِحُوا مَا طَابَ لَكُمْ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ مَثْنَى وَثُلَاثَ وَرُبَاعَ. He says the way you solve the problem is to marry them. The orphan girls, marry them. But you can only marry them if they are nisa.